Okay.
Welcome back to the More Than Moms podcast. And if you've been following along on stories or on our feed, I was searching for a new nanny because my nanny for the second time got pregnant. And if you listened to an episode from, I don't know, a year and a half ago, my last nanny also got pregnant. So I have been on the search again. And I wanted to share because I feel like so many of you don't know where to turn to look for a nanny or how to find a nanny or
The right questions
what
to
to look
ask.
for, the right questions to ask. And we do have a whole guide up on our Patreon, but I wanted to talk about it. So first thing is that when you are searching for a nanny, I think it's so important to get clear between you and your partner, or if you're single or whatever, with what you're looking for. Because there are so many people out there with different qualifications, different jobs, and I think it's really important. So for me, for example, this time, my intention was I wanted someone who was with us long term and someone who could be with us for a long time, who's reliable and older, because I did not want to risk another nanny, leaving us in a year from now, 6 months from now, because she's in that transitional phase of her life.
Yeah, and one thing I will say for you is that you really do need someone who is reliable, right? So Nick's at work. You're the one that has to pick up the pieces if the nanny calls out constantly. And I think reliability is something we may write on our list, but be like, oh, like it's okay. Like I'm sure she'll be fine. But it is something you really need to hone in on if you want a nanny to be constantly there and you want to feel comfortable going to your job or whatever you need to be doing.
Definitely. And I think it's important to ask them questions. Like some might have young kids and might be running out. If they're sick, what is the plan? Because it is really, because, all people deserve a job, but it has to work with your lifestyle and what you need. Because if they do have young kids and one gets sick, like what is the game plan there? Of course, we write out a contract with the sick days and the vacation days and the holidays. But outside of that, like, and emergencies happen, but there might be things in the day-to-day, which is why, so.
That you can pick up on, like you can pick up on signs.
Exactly. And I think, so where to look?
Obviously, before we go to where to look, what are if you had to name 3 non-negotiables? So, like get really specific, like 1-word answers for 3 non-negotiables.
I think price, obviously. I got quoted some crazy-ass prices out there. Someone quoted me $65 an hour. That is like basically
so
$300,000 a year. And I'm like, okay, I'll just quit and become like,
yeah,
like it was.
You don't even need to work. You just stay home. And listen, we're very privileged to even have a nanny, but we and our partners both work full time. So that is why we have.
Yeah. And even people, I have friends that don't work and they still have a nanny. And I think it's like whatever works for you, which is actually brings up a conversation that we wanted to share because, okay.
Wait, tell me your 2 other non-negotiables.
Okay. Sorry. I would say price is a big one. Reliability, super important. I'm very like a punctual. I want to make sure they're punctual so I could be ready to go. And then obviously like safety is so important. I assume that most of them are, but you never know. Like I want to make sure that I actually have 4. That they're keeping my child safe. And also like I want to make sure that my kids they love my kids. Like I did 6 nanny trials, and the one I chose was the one who actually cared about my kids. Yes, it was the first day, but I could tell instantly the second they walked in through the door if they were there for the kids.
Or they were there for the job.
There for the job. And let me tell you, the one I ended up hiring with, the second I called her to say, she got the job, the first thing when she picked up the phone was, how are the kids doing? And I could feel that from the second she walked in the door. And I was like, that to me is... That's the number one thing, because yes, the details are important, but if someone is basically in your house multiple times a week, they are raising your children with you. Like I want to know that they are looking at them as like they really, really, really care about them.
An extension of their family.
Yeah, and because we will treat them as such, and obviously we'll have boundaries because it's a job, and they would have theirs as well. But I think it's really important, and I think that's the first thing I actually do look for is they come in, how are they with my kids? How do they look at them? How do they play with them? And of course, then you get in the details. You can ask them scenario-based questions about, what would you do in this case? What would you do if there was an emergency? What would you do if, someone you felt unsafe at the park, if someone came up to you? What would you do, if someone hurt themselves? Like, are you going to call 911 right away? Or, I think those are very important to talk about. So
yeah, but I think you mentioned something that's really important is that when it's a passion, so they love your kids, it's so different than when it's like, oh, I'm a nanny to make money. It's the same way when we're doing More Than Moms or doing any career that we choose to. If we're super passionate about what we do, we're going to show up differently than if we are not passionate and we just want money or whatever the byproduct is. We're not going to be the same type of person.
Exactly. You want to make sure that, of course it is a job, but at the same time, like, I think it takes a special person to work in early education.
100%.
And early childcare.
Yes.
I think you have to have like a certain passion, demeanor, patience, and it's not just a job. Like there are so many jobs out there, and I think that being a nanny, you really have to be a special kind of person.
Yes. And I will say the thing I'd add to your non-negotiable list is communication, because if I can't communicate with this person, if I can't communicate well with this person, if I'm constantly going back and forth, I had a nanny before my current one who just never understood it the first time. So I would tell her something, please do this. And then it was like a constant back and forth question and answer. And I thought I was being very clear. So that just is not something that works for me. I need a nanny who's very good at communication. We clearly communicate to each other, feedback, things that we need to do. Dale and I have a whiteboard coming out, a More Than Moms whiteboard. Everything is kind of written over there. The nannies take a look, ask any questions. Activities are all written there. But I do think communication is very, very important if you're going to be kind of parenting alongside this person.
It's funny you say that, because I was just texting my friend because it was our nanny's first day on the job today. And I was like, I know she's a good nanny because as I was explaining things to her, she like finished my sentence exactly how I was trying to explain to her.
Yes.
And I knew that it was something that she genuinely understood and was taking in versus, okay, I'm saying this, but does she really get it? Is she really going to do this? Like, when you're not sure if they really understand you, that is how I knew that I was like, okay, she gets it.
So today is your nanny's first day on the job. Are there any things that you do to make sure you get off to the right foot? Because I know that you put together this guide about nanny's first day. How do we clearly align? How do we clearly set boundaries? And how do we show up as the quote unquote boss so that we don't become like the friend and just like not like kind of scared to ask for what we want?
Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, I think I want to go back a little bit because I think I want to talk about the interview process about picking people.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. So you have an interview with someone and, you meet them on FaceTime or on the phone. Okay, that's the first vibe check. If you like them and your values and your requirements align with theirs, so price, location, all these, biographical things, then you can bring them in for a trial day. Now, this is paid work. This is how they do in LA. So I'd pay them per hour, whatever their rate is. And they would be working, but you would be observing, showing them things and whatnot. So I did about 6 of those. And I think it's very important to do so because you can totally have someone that's great on paper. It's like dating. But you don't know how they are in your family, in the wild. Like, of course, it's their interview, they're going to be on great behavior, but you can very well see how they are. And don't be afraid to ask them to come back for another trial day if you want to get another vibe check. And then I would say go to the references and make sure to not only contact the last reference, but several references. I say this because sometimes the last reference just wants to place the nanny into a new job. And they might be giving them a really great glowing reference. Because I've seen that a lot where the last nanny was great and the other people were like, she wasn't so great. So just letting you know, I think you should have about 3 references you contact. So the first day starts. I typically have So this week is like our training week. She's coming in for a few days. I'm in and out. Obviously, I'm here recording an episode. I kind of prepped her. She already texted me things to buy for the grocery list. But I think it's great to write things out, especially a schedule. And we have our whiteboard, but I also have the kids' nap schedule and feeding schedule written out. So I think that's important. I think listing the duties that, they do. So for example, laundry twice a week, change the sheets twice a week or however many times a week. Meal prep, maybe they do it on Mondays and Wednesdays. They create a batch of like pasta and chicken. And my communication to them is always worry about the kids first. And when they're napping, or like this morning, for example, we took our kids to soccer. So I took Leo. So again, she got in another nap with the baby. That's when she could do, folding of the laundry and things like that. So I think it is good to print out a sheet that they can refer to. I also have like contacts on there. So obviously my number, my husband's phone number.
And by the way, that's really good to put in the stroller. Just kind of, I actually have in my stroller now, I certify my nanny's name to take care of my daughter. This is her medical history. This is the blood type she has. This is her pediatrician. And these are our numbers. You never know if that will be needed. Another pro tip is I actually put an air tag. Like
so do I in the stroller.
In the stroller. So God forbid you just need to know where your kid is at.
For sure.
Put it in your stroller.
I love that. And also like make it clear, I'm sure most know, but if there's an emergency, call 911 before you call me. Like alert the ambulances, because they will do a better job at whatever's happening in an emergency, and they should be there. So that's very clear. Just dial 911 in case of emergency, then call me. Because
I want to ask you, you went with an older nanny this time, and this is nanny number 4, because all of Dale's nannies have gotten pregnant and left her. But
the first one decided to switch careers,
right? But the other 2 got pregnant.
She was young.
So you've always had a younger nanny, so under the age of 30, and this time you decided to go for an older nanny, and actually you were choosing between 2, a younger and an older. So walk us through your thought process, pros and cons, and all of that.
Totally. So I was always hesitant for going older. I know a lot of people loved having an older nanny, but I just felt like when it came to technology and communication and energy, that a young nanny would be better. And the ones that I've gotten referred to were younger, and I thought, my son likes the younger energy and likes the younger nannies, and they're more closer to my age. So I was doing that, and then we were interviewing a bunch, and I was going for mostly older, but a younger one did come across she had reached out to me through, I think it was Peachhead, and she was absolutely fantastic. She was so buttoned up. She had so much energy. She was sweet. She checked every single box. The older nanny also checked a lot of the box, like pretty much every box. There was nothing that she didn't, the only difference was that she was older. And for me, in this stage of my life, I was like to my husband, I was like, I do not want to go through this in 6 months to a year from now. Of course, anything can happen. Of course, there could be, you don't know what's going to happen. But if there is one thing that if I can remove one potential hurdle at this point, I will, because I've been through this enough. And I was ready for a new energy. I was ready for someone who was really experienced, and I felt the energy was different. Now, this is obviously person to person. My last nanny was the most loving person to my kids. Like, I can't even tell you. But I just felt like I was ready for something new and to change. And hey, for someone else, it might be the opposite. But then when I shared about this on our stories, I got so many people writing in saying that they actually were so surprised about how their nanny, who might have been in their 60s or older, or like 50s or 70s, that they had so much energy. They were totally able to keep up with the kids.
They're very maternal.
And very maternal. So again, I think that there are so many factors, but there is a difference between the kind of vibe you want to go for.
Yeah.
Someone older, someone younger.
And how did you find the nanny?
So I actually found her through our IRL group.
If you don't know what our IRL group is, if you are in LA, we have an IRL moms group. We have events every month, and we also have an amazing group chat. And when we ask our mom something like Dale's nanny, everyone wanted to help.
First of all, I wrote in, I am desperate. Send me your nanny recommendations. So one of the women and the moms in our group sent me a recommendation from her doctor.
Shout out to Lauren.
Shout out to Lauren. Her doctor, who's also a close friend of hers, surgical assistant's mom. And she had been a nanny for years. And I spoke to the references. I interviewed her right away. We knew. And then this morning when I was on a call and my husband was, I sometimes take my calls on the go. So I was on the go. My husband was home. He was like, we so made the right choice. And I was like, I'm so glad to hear that.
It's like, you're welcome, Nick.
Yeah, you're welcome. Which nannies do you bring into the
That's part of the mental load, right?
Yeah.
You finding it. Okay, tell us the story you were about to tell us. Oh,
sorry. How else I found it? Okay, IRL group is one.
Yeah.
So word of mouth is huge. I always love to find people word of mouth. Preferably.
Yeah, ask at your pediatrician
kind of just
office,
like looking to a friend. Park. You'd rather get set up than go in the apps.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality.
Yeah.
And then 2 is like the Facebook groups. Look in your city. Look at Facebook groups in your city. For ours, there's like an LA nanny group. There's also Peach Head in LA. It's very old school. It's
Archaic site, but it's
they
very
need to
good.
update that, but it's archaic. But that's who I found that amazing younger one from. And then there's a lot of my friends have found them on care.com. And don't be afraid to like go up to women at like the nail salon. I got numbers at, you're seeing a family walking down the street with a stroller. Ask them if
I
they've got
found
anyone.
my nanny from a music class. I made an announcement at the end and I only knew one girl and I said, hey, does anyone have a nanny? And turns out someone did. So just like have no shame.
And wanting to go back because obviously we know having a nanny is a privilege. And one thing about Annabelle and I is we're never going to hide the help we have. And we know we're privileged to have this help. But we're not going to hide it and we're not going to be ashamed about it. And again, yes, we are working moms, but even if you're not a working mom and you want help, go for it. If that's in your means, like if that's in your budget, do not feel afraid to ask for help. We are big proponents in seeking help. It does not make you weak. Privilege, yes, it does make you privileged, but it does not make you weak. And it's fortunate to have help, but we know we should not be afraid to ask. So we shared on our stories about I think it was actually Annabelle who shared her nanny was out with COVID and she just was solo parenting. And we did get a message from another creator who we have been eyeing that some of her content looks very similar to ours, actually word for word verbatim. Fine, we've just karma. And she sent in a long message about how we should not be, how she's doing it by herself. And she just put us down for this.
Yes. And I think brought shame. I think the word she used was, it sounds entitled. And listen, everyone can do their thing. But I think when another mom is sharing overwhelm of not having help and kind of just the mental load is loading on her, and to bring in shame to that, I think is just very hurtful. And I think as moms, we want to lift each other up constantly. And you don't have to agree with someone else's choices, but you have to be okay with that mom doing what is right for her family and not shame other people for it. It's the same thing with sleep training, no sleep training, formula, breastfeeding. Like there's always another side to the coin. And I think we need to just let go of shame and not propelling the narrative of you have to do it all. And in that moment, what you're sharing, what you told everyone is that, yes, I was solo parenting, my nanny had COVID, and I was sleep training my son and I was on no sleep. And it just felt like very overwhelming for me. And it's hard to do it all. And I care to ask for help. Like we said at the beginning, like I have learned to ask for help. It was very hard for me at the beginning. And now I do ask for help, and to kind of be shamed for that is hard. But I know it happens to a lot of people.
And listen, I commend moms who are doing without help. Like,
yes, good.
You are a freaking superhero. Just like the women who don't use an epidural and give birth. Like, same. You are a freaking superhero, and I actually really, really admire those moms. But again, it doesn't make you weak if you are someone who needs the extra help. It doesn't make you weak if you are someone who needs the assistant or wants the assistance, or you can afford it or it's in your budget.
And we're not trying to be martyrs here. Like,
yeah,
we're not trying
I think we're just trying to be honest. And also, like, one thing I've learned is, like, again, I did feel the need to do it all and the pressure of, like, I'm not a good mom unless I exclusively breastfeed for a year. Do this, do that. Like, I had a whole list of the things that I thought would make me a good mom. And I think one of the things that is so powerful about our community and what we share is, like, we're trying to get rid of that. Like, you can still be an incredible mom and reach out for help. You can still be an incredible mom and never breastfeed. Like, you can still be an incredible mom. It doesn't matter. And that's what we try to preach. You can be an incredible mom in so many different ways, and it doesn't make anyone more or less of a mom.
Yeah, and we always try to create this like safe space for moms to just show up authentically and share vulnerably, knowing that they will never ever be faced with judgment. Instead, they will be met with support and love and like cheerleading for whatever they're going through. Because in motherhood, there's already so much noise and opinions and shame and guilt and all of these emotions. So the least we can do is just all support each other. And you don't have to agree with someone else's choices, but it's not on you to judge them based on that, because you have no idea what they're going through.
Exactly.
So I love how we got to this from the nanny conversation, but it all kind of comes full circle.
It all ties in. And if you are looking for a nanny, you need tips, we have a guide on our Patreon.
And if
we've
you're
made it
in
very
LA,
comprehensive.
let us know. Always happy to help.
Yes, for sure. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Bye.
I love the applause.
I know.
Guys. So nice.
Gail, we just keep crushing right now.
Oh, and it's 1:00 on the dot.
Oh, great. Okay, I have her. Okay, I have her.